Look up the word crazy in the dictionary, and you might just find an asterisk beside the definition that says, listen to the Suebiquitous Podcast featuring Sue Duffield, and you'll find out what crazy means. Sue's travelogue journey of unfiltered stories, impossible miracles, and faith-filled fun will be revisited right here. So buckle up, and let's get going with this humorous travelogue of an unfiltered saint, Suebiquitous.
Rich Stevens. There is no voice in America like that man. We have this agreement that if anything was to happen to Jeff, my husband, and Rich Stevens' wife, if anything happens, I am marrying that man. Welcome to the Suebiquitous broadcast, for the first time podcast, actually, episode number 1. I'm Sue Duffield, and it's a good thing you're not, because I have never in my life ever realized just how weird I really am. And I guess it takes some time of maturity to realize I know I'm funny. I know I have a good time. I know I like to make people laugh. And you know what? I'm 64 now, and I don't care anymore. And it's just wonderful. So today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the enlightenment of embarrassment. Tell me how many times in your lifetime have you been embarrassed to a point to tears or hopefully laughter? Because I think the healthiest people in the world are ones who can laugh at themselves. And trust me, I even heard that you lose weight when you laugh at yourself. I should be 15 pounds, but I'm not. But my sidekick's with me here today, too. The one and only Jeff Duffield. And Jeff, say hi to you. How are you?
Say hi, Jeff. I've been your sidekick, your back kick, and sometimes even a forward kick for a long time.
And for those of you that don't know Jeff and Sue Duffield, we have been around since dirt, but we started out back in, what was it, 71? I actually met you in 1968, I think. Yes, it was the first time.
Yeah, so right around 1968. You know, that was, contrary to popular belief, was not before the invention of electricity and television and automobiles, but they don't look like they do today. They're not.
But we have been through a lot of technological advancements.
Yes, we have.
I mean, not like 100-year-old or the centennials that have seen everything from horse and buggy to, satellites. But we have seen a lot of changes in the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of changes in the last 40-some years. Yeah. I mean, we go from phonograph records to 8-track tapes. Ooh. And again, those of you who do not know what an 8-track tape is, Google it. To CDs, to iPhones and MP3 files, and we saw the invention, or at least the marketing of the microwave oven, that which we take so,
Remember, it was the Amanda radar range, the very first one.
But
no, what did I say, Amanda?
It wasn't named after Amanda. No, I know Amanda.
The Amanda Crab radar range. I'll have to tell her to give her a royalty.
Yeah. I don't think they named it after her.
No, that's right. The Amanda radar range.
Yes.
But Jeff and I, we go back almost to youth camp, and Jeff is a great musician, an amazing pianist you'll hear in a few minutes. And we were kind of thrown together during a time when they would have, in the Assemblies of God, in our denomination that we grew up in, they had a program for young people called Teen Talent Search, which would be an updated version of what we see as like in American Idol almost.
But very similar.
I remember one embarrassing moment, and we're going to talk about how we've become greatly enlightened with those embarrassing moments over the years. Jeff, you actually were in one of those talent searches and lost as a keyboard player. You were a piano player, but lost to an accordion player.
You had to bring that up.
I had to bring that up.
The first podcast, the very first one. And here we go. Let's bring up the old man's weakest moment. He lost to a squeeze box player.
I felt bad for you. I did. I felt bad for you because
a lot of folks did.
You were classically trained. Now she was classically trained too.
She was,
and I'm not going to give her name because
we're
not going to do that. But Anyway, we have gone through many, many kinds of embarrassing moments. I even like what I read the other day. I was reading about the story of Tony Randall, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but Tony Randall, the great actor, was asked to be a spokesperson for the National Sleep Disorder Month, and he overslept and missed the guest spot on a TV show called Wake Up America. And when I read that, I thought, how awful is that?
That would sound like something you would do.
Well, yeah, be the national spokesperson for the National Sleep Disorder Month and then not show up on a guest spot on television because your alarm didn't go off in your hotel.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. We're not starting on a good foot.
Yeah. Tell me one of your, do any of your embarrassing moments stand out at all?
Oh, my. The list is long. But probably if I had a worst case scenario, was probably 30 years ago, I was producing a outdoor music festival, Christian music festival, and I won't name the state because the people that were in charge of it, as far as I know, are still living.
I think you should.
Oh, nah.
No? Okay. It was. I'll give you the initials. It was called Fishnet.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Well, as long as we don't go any further than that. I was producing it, which for 99% of the time meant I was behind the scenes, which is really where I'm most comfortable.
Right.
And the director of the founder of the festival had a brain cramp, or his lasagna didn't taste right, or whatever. And he decided one day that he wanted me to be an MC for one of the artists.
Right.
So he says, get out there and introduce this guy. And at that time, I wasn't real super comfortable talking in front of crowds, especially crowds of 15 to 20,000 people. So reluctantly, I went out there and to do this, and I'm backstage reading my cue card about the artist, who, unfortunately, I didn't know a whole lot about at the time. His name is Charlie Peacock.
Which is amazing. And CCM music was amazing. Now.
And by the way, he just posted something on social media the other day. I just saw something where he was on there playing and singing, believe it or not.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I haven't seen or heard of him for quite a while. Anyway, great talent. I just at that time had not been acquainted with him. So I walk out there to introduce him. Actually, before I'm backstage and being a musician, I've got it in my brain reading this card that I'm introducing Charlie Parker,
which is
a noted jazz saxophonist, quite well-known jazz saxophonist.
And no relation to Charlie Peacock.
No, and he's no longer with us either, which is beside the point. So I'm backstage and I keep flubbing this. And I keep saying, Charlie, no, hitting myself on the head. It's not Charlie Parker. It is Charlie Peacock. So you walk out on the stage to introduce him. Ladies and gentlemen, we're glad that he's done this. He's done that. Great artist. Please welcome to the stage, Charlie Parker Peacock. As I corrected myself instantaneously.
I was in the audience.
I was going to say, some people were in the audience and still laugh about it to this day.
I was in the audience, and I remember, first of all, I felt really badly for you. I have to tell you that, because you're right, that is not your...
You weren't the only one.
That was not your forte.
No, I'm better at it now.
You are.
I've gotten better at doing that sort of thing.
I'm still training you.
Yeah, I know you are.
Yeah, but...
The funny thing was to walk back in the trailer behind it's an outdoor festival, so there's a trailer behind the stage, and to walk into the office of the director, and he was convulsing on the floor because he had the closed circuit TV thing where he could watch it. So he saw the entire thing. I was.
At least he didn't fire you.
Well, he had no one to blame for that but himself.
Oh, well, that's true.
I told him, you put the flying faux pas out there, that's exactly what you're going to get. So he brought it upon himself completely. He could have had a professional do it, but no.
No.
Anyway.
So the enlightenment of embarrassment, what did you learn from that?
Don't introduce people you don't know.
There you go. Awesome. Stay in the area of your anointing. Yeah. That's right.
And don't do what you're not hired to do.
Another favorite one that you did, my favorite.
Do we have to go?
Well, no, I'm just wanting people to know that there's a vulnerable side to you. You're not just all...
Is it vulnerable or idiotic?
Well, you make me laugh.
Okay.
And so...
I'm happy for that.
There was a young man in Pennsville, New Jersey.
Yes.
It's almost part of our family, actually. And
am I telling this?
Yeah, no, I'm just setting it up for you.
Thank you. Can we set it up quickly because it's painful to relive?
But it's embarrassing, but it's fun. Fun.
I had a habit in those days. I tend to be black and white, and I ask questions that appear to be obvious to me. I've learned. I don't do this anywhere near as much as I used to. But the gentleman was born with one of those Mikhail Gorbachev birthmarks.
Yes, over his eye.
And there's a name for it.
There's a
yeah, I'm not a doctor.
Medical name, and I don't know what that is.
But he had one of those around his eye.
Right.
Enter the dummy piano player to see this, and I walked up to him, and I casually knew him, but I really obviously didn't know him very well.
And I was standing there, and I could feel the heat rise because I see you looking at his eye.
And I asked him, so I said, well, who gave you the shiner?
Oh, man.
I was born this way.
And then you said, okay.
Okay, yep.
Which is why I always step in front of Jeff sometimes when he looks like he's looking at someone who may look like they may be 9 months pregnant, and they're not.
No. I learned that. I learned that one.
Okay.
No embarrassing moment, but I learned that from the embarrassment of others.
I know.
That I've seen other people make that mistake. When's that baby due?
When's that baby due?
I'm not pregnant.
Don't do that.
No, so I don't go there anymore. I wait until someone announces or someone else asks about the pregnancy and
you don't
the due date,
nope.
Then I will jump in and say, oh, you look great, and you're glad you're feeling well, and we're happy for you. But
so I'll jump in here and add.
Right ahead.
I will jump in some of my key embarrassing moments. And this just happened a couple of months ago in February. We were in Newport, Pennsylvania, and a woman yelled out from the crowd, Sue, sing one of your earlier songs you wrote. Well, that's always makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up because I don't know why sometimes I have a mental block to the lyrics of my own songs. It makes I can remember unforgettable, that's what you are, but going back and trying to remember my own lyrics. So she yelled out, Sue, sing that song you wrote in the 70s called Couple of Changes. And I went, oh, okay. And Jeff started the intro. Do you have an intro?
I actually remembered the intro.
Do you remember the intro?
Yeah, now because of my setup here,
okay.
I'm going to sound like I'm a little bit across the room, so forgive me, but I'll nonetheless. Okay, here comes the intro.
You are across the room.
Well, true.
Yeah, and I was so excited, and I'm thinking, okay, I can do this. Yeah, I can remember the words to Couple of Changes. And I can't remember the first phrase. And this is what comes out. Start spreading the news. I'm today.
Anyway.
New York.
And
I could not remember.
We should remind folks, the particular song we were trying to do, you wrote it.
I know, that's what I said.
Yep.
I have a mental block to my own music.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Jeff Duffield. Your portion of this program is over.
Now that's a relief.
Yes, and now you may return to eating your tasty cake.
Yeah.
Putting your leg up on the board, as you always do.
That sounds like a good idea.
Sitting back and relaxing.
Okay.
And drinking your sweet tea.
And I'm going to mute my microphone.
And mute your microphone.
Yep.
And let me have at it.
Okay.
All right, bye. I might need you at the end, though.
Well, I will keep monitoring the situation.
That's fine.
So, yeah.
Let's give Jeff Duffield a big hand.
Yeah,
thank you, sir.
Much.
My engineer, my piano player, my wacko husband of 47 years almost.
That's him.
Good grief.
Goodbye.
So then I was on a stage in Pennsville, New Jersey, another small Jersey town. We've talked about Pennsville twice now for some reason, but my mother, back in the 70s, I would do a lot of concerts in auditoriums, in high school auditoriums. And I had this really beautiful white peasant dress that I got at a dress shop in Pittman, New Jersey, owned by Ralph Marinacci. They had the most amazing clothes. And this one beautiful white peasant dress that I bought, I decided I wanted to wear for this concert. And so I get introduced, and ladies and gentlemen, here's Sue Beatty. That was my maiden name. And I walk out on the stage, and my mother is sitting on the front row, and my mother's face, it looked like somebody just peeled back her toenails. She put her hand to her mouth and looked at me in horror. What I did not know was, first of all, I did not have a long slip underneath this opaque white peasant dress. And little did I know that the lighting on the stage was not only coming in front of me, but it was coming from behind me. And so everything that was underneath of this peasant dress was like standing in front of an X-ray. And I'll never forget that. My mother could not wait until I walked off the platform. What she did was, though, because I had a second half to that program, she ran home and got me a slip and saved my neck for the second part of that concert that night. I mean, stage lighting behind you, who would even know? He would even know. One time I was young and trying to wax spiritual, which is a very dangerous thing for Sue Duffield to do. I was trying to quote scripture, and if I didn't have it in front of me, I would try to bring it to my remembrance by being, looking like I really knew what I was talking about. And sometimes this went against me big time. So one night I said, you know what? In the last days, God says, I will pour out my flesh on all spirits. And I kept going. And a friend of mine in the audience came up to me later. She said, I about fell off the pew when you said that. I will pour out my flesh on all spirits. She said, that's probably the reason why in the later days, I've gained 30 pounds. Oh, my word. This whole pandemic thing right now, and when you're listening to this podcast, this broadcast, depending on when you're hearing it, this is our very first one. But we are in the midst of something that's pretty ironic and pretty devastating. But I have found that laughter doeth good like medicine. And not only that, we have to continually put our faces and our ears and our minds and our thoughts on things that are good, even when you're going through tough times. There was a church in Pennsylvania that was on lockdown praying for this wonderful young woman who they had found out had a brain tumor and had cancer. So the church, as a body of believers, which is so wonderful when I think about this, they went on a 48-hour lockdown and prayed continually for this woman. So by Sunday morning, the pastor gets up and he announces before the service even begins, he said, I just got great news. Our sister that we've been praying for 2 days solid, we just got news today that there is no cancer and there is no brain tumor. Well, you can imagine the audience just stood to their feet and were shouting and yelling and have a great time. And then the applause just kind of dwindled, and a man all the way in the back yelled from the back of the auditorium, well, then why did we pray so hard for 2 days if she's healed? I don't know what I would have done if I was there. What did we waste our time praying for if she doesn't have a brain tumor and a cancer? You just got to laugh. You got to roll with the punches. I mean, the enlightenment of embarrassment has worked in my favor for decades. And I know that there are people that are of different personality, that whatever embarrasses them, they will lock themselves away and never come out in public again. But for me, it's almost been my forte. It's almost been something that I think people can relate to. If I could tell you, there's been at least 10 or 15 times in a week where I'll do something stupid, or I'll say something dumb, or I'll just pontificate on something, and I'll put the wrong word in it, and Jeff will look at me and laugh, and we'll have some of our best laughter. I don't know why there are personality types that have a difficult time laughing at themselves. But I even go back to scripture in 2 Kings, the great story of Naaman. And Naaman was told to baptize himself so that he could get rid of leprosy. 7 times. Go into the water and baptize yourself 7 times. How embarrassing would that be with all the friends hanging around? What in the world are you doing, Naaman? You're making a complete fool of yourself. I can even imagine him going down the 3rd time, looking at his skin, going, yep, not working yet. All right, I'll do it again. 4th, get up again. Still there. 5th. Oh, I am literally a public display of craziness right now. This cannot possibly work in my favor. So he dips himself again the 6th time, and he looks at the lesions. The leprosy is still there. But then what happens on that 7th time? He comes out of the water and he looks at his skin, and for the first time, and his body is free of leprosy. So I got to tell you, there have been many times I've made a fool of myself for the kingdom. And I'm really okay with that. The word ass, A-S-S, is in the Bible. Yes, it is. And I know I got to tell you what happened. I was actually in a service where that word came flying out of my mouth in front of about 100 women. And it was this way. It was a little girl, a little baby was having some difficulty in the service, and the mother was just having a hard time keeping him quiet. And so she takes the baby out finally after about 10 minutes. And the baby is screaming, and the women are looking at me like, do something, Sue, for crying out loud, do something. And finally she takes the baby out, and she obviously ignored all the nursery announcements prior to that. And so she's walking out, and this is what comes out of my mouth. I said, you know what? I grew up in church. If that was me when I was a kid, my mother would have hauled my ASS to the parking lot. And I said the word out loud, and I don't know, I say the picture of Jesus on the back wall unhinged and started rocking from side to side. Finally, what saved me was a young girl all the way in the back of the auditorium. She yelled from the back. She goes, "That's okay, Miss Sue. Don't worry. Ass is in the Bible." And I said, yes. And mine is in a lot of trouble. So a few years ago, as a blogger and now a podcaster, I want to tell you that story in the form of cliche, which I think will be kind of fun. I don't usually talk in cliches, but for one instance, I thought it might be quite healing for me. It starts like this. It says, I'm not going to beat around the bush. A little bird told me I may have pushed the proverbial envelope a little too far. Raise your hand if you've done that. The egg on my face is not all it's cracked up to be, but nonetheless, there's not enough room to swing a cat in this over-the-top naked truth. Simply said, I was caught red-handed, but thankfully not with my pants down. Instead, I let the cat out of the bag and was called on the carpet for jumping on the bandwagon of terse reality. I couldn't keep it under my hat any longer, but I knew somehow this might be the kiss of death for me and my holy humor. The jig is up. I can't hold a candle to it. It's a catch-22. And if there ever was one, you see, I've been known to charm the pants off of many. I've chewed the fat and jumped through hoops with the best of them. And since the fans of this gospel-singing comedy life assume you live the life of Riley, the truth is, it's pretty much hand-to-mouth here. I have no bitter pill to swallow or reason or to get my dander up. I'm no longer quiet as a mouse, and I must quit my belly aching. But after 3 long weeks with extra long graveyard shift drives, I was head over heels weary while barking up the wrong tree of fatigue. I know you've heard that before. So bet your bottom dollar the best bib and tucker girl will say wrong things when she's tired. Lord, what did she say? You ready? I already said it. I said the A double scribble word during one of my comedy concerts. It flew out of my mouth like birds of a feather flocking together. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but I'll tell you for sure, my mother would have boxed my ears, breaking a leg or two, and surely would be busting my chops over this one. So by hook or crook, I knew this can of worms would never give me enough time to spew an explanation or get a word in edgewise to the audience. It's like I was caught red-handed in the if the shoe fits, wear it language faux pas. So Sue then becomes Johnny on the spot, keeping her fingers crossed that no one noticed this let your hair down expression. I was simply making no bones about it. The ASS word came out after the mom in the audience finally took her precocious toddler out of the sanctuary. And the naked truth is, the toddler was a full gamut loose cannon. And mark my words, whatever I would or would not say, I'd be here today and gone tomorrow. So I, the performer, was distracted, and I raised my Ebenezer, hit the nail on the head, and say out loud to the audience, if that was me when I was a kid, my mother would have hauled my ass to the parking lot. Silence, horror, and then the unbelievable applause of laughter. I couldn't get the women to stop. You know, beggars can't be choosers, but bet your bottom dollar someone in my world will be offended that I'm even retelling this tale. But hell or high water, I was between a rock and a hard place, dealing with both the toddler and his behavior, and me and I can't bite my tongue any longer syndrome. My heart hurt like the Dickens, but I grinned like a Cheshire cat. We laughed, we cried, and the audience and I for whatever, it just felt like forever. And thank God they didn't throw the baby, that was me, out with the bathwater. I was down in the mouth for dropping the hammer for only a little while. This dyed-in-the-wool singer humorist of over 40 years has realized that this once-in-a-blue-moon utterance was one for the road. And before you cast the first stone, eat your heart out, oh precious, sacred talking friend. I know you've been there before. Like you've never done something like this. I'm eating crow and eating one's own words, but I'm thanking God today that being real is as easy as pie for me, and maybe too easy. In this 11th hour, pardon my French here, if you fly off the handle or fight fire with fire, you'll surely be an offense. If I can put my 2 cents in here, put a sock in it. Stop acting spiritual. You're like the pot calling the kettle black. And if you haven't at least once said something publicly you shouldn't have, if your name is mud today, I'm not pulling your chain here. Be very thankful. And the people around you who are fit to be tied because of your transparency are as fit as a fiddle as you think. They aren't. I'd prefer to just put a feather in my cap, face the music, whistle down the wind on a wing and a prayer, and quit wearing my heart on my sleeve. You're going to get opposition, and you'll make some mad as a hatter. But don't ever give up being real. 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, I'm up the creek without a paddle sometimes, and thankfully my ducks are all in a row, and I'm eating humble pie. With my kit and caboodle, I'm loaded for bear and keeping my shirt on till Katie bars the door. So let the cat out of the bag, let your hair down. People need Jesus, the real Jesus, the one without the chip on his shoulder, because when the chips are down, he's no cock and bull story. Give credit where credit is due. Be that low man on the totem pole, and you'll be pleased as punch, flying with colors when your fair to midland life becomes truer than every other Tom, Dick, and Harry. Be you, for the love of Pete, be you. Don't sell yourself short. You're the apple of his eye, even when you can't bite your tongue or resist blowing off some steam. Loose lips sinks ships, but mark my words, don't go dragging your feet down the straight and narrow. Because Proverbs 31:25 through 31 says, I am clothed with strength and dignity, and so are you. I can laugh at the days to come. I can speak with wisdom and faithful instruction. It's on my tongue. And I can watch over the affairs of my household, and I really don't want to eat the bread of idleness, because I want my children to arise and call me blessed. And I want my husband also to praise me. And there are many of us, many women all across the world, we do noble things, but you know what? You, my friend, who are listening today, you surpass them all, because charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have ever done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. What I can learn more and more all the time is this: you learn more from your mistakes than you'll ever learn from your successes. I love you all. Thanks for joining us on this very first podcast, Suebiquitous, a humorous travelogue of an unfiltered saint. I'm Sue Duffield, and I would love to hear from you. Give me some of your best stories. Give me some of your miracle stories. Give me some of your most embarrassing moments. We'll talk about them on a future broadcast. But in the meantime, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Your encouragement, feedback, and comments are always welcome here at the Suebiquitous Podcast. Email Sue at radiosue@me.com or go directly to her website, sueduffield.com. If you've been inspired today, share this episode with your friends. The Suebiquitous Podcast and Sue Duffield Ministries are part of Ennoble Ministries, a 501c3 nonprofit helping women in ministry around the world.